You are back. I am back. We are here for episode number 76 of the Unknown Games podcast. And this week, there's not much happening in the world of gaming, so we decided to just talk about life here in Japan. Like literally, there was besides Apex coming out on Switch, which I heard that wasn't good. I heard that wasn't good. But that happened, and then that was it. So, as always, remember this is your place for Japanese news in terms of video games or video games in general, and of course our life in Japan and the occasional fast food, which we're both trying to eat healthier now or exercise, something like that.
I'm trying to exercise a little more, but I am 100% not trying to eat healthier. I'm still eating shit. I'm just exercising now.
What does that work better or something?
Yeah. You just gotta control yourself a little bit. You gotta like dial down the pizza a tiny bit. I mean, as long as you're exercising, and as long as you're having like a net calorie neutral, I guess, or a little bit of a deficit, then you'll still lose weight. So yeah.
That's true. I will say that I haven't lost weight. I mean, I gained weight. I haven't lost weight. I've just maintained my weight for like the entirety of last year, so I'm happy with that. But I mean, I guess if I were to exercise a little bit and move, then I should in theory lose weight.
As long as you're burning more than you're eating, then yeah, you can eat shit all you want. You won't be like healthy per se, but you'll be light but unhealthy, I guess.
Yeah, there we go. I'll be a light, unhealthy person. That sounds great. But hey, you know what? We're living in Japan, where if you come to Japan, you can lose weight. I guarantee you're gonna lose that 10 pounds off the bat. First month,
sure?
Gone.
Really?
Yes, I think it happens for everyone. Like every time I've come,
weight. I moved to China, I got fat.
how did you gain weight? Every time I have lost weight when I've come to Japan, I've lost weight because back then we were walking, of course, walking all over the place.
All right. Well, before we get into that, I do a little bit of intro first.
What now?
Introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah, I forgot. My name is Adrian.
Yeah, what's up? Welcome to the Unknown Games podcast. We talk about video games, but sometimes other stuff like life in Japan. Considering we live in Japan, that's Adrian, typical host. You can catch him NinjaTrix, twitch.tv/NinjaTrix. His handle's on screen, but in case you're listening on Anchor or Apple Podcasts or whatever, that's NinjaTrix. When do you stream, bud?
I stream every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 9 p.m. JST. So I think that's like 7 a.m. now in the U.S. Central Time.
Because of daylight savings, right?
Yeah, daylight savings time. So we're back on that normal. And that's my co-host over there, Alex, aka the Game Duck, aka on Twitch. You can follow him at Route24, ROUTE 24. When do you stream?
I stream Tuesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. JST. Yeah, that's it.
we're like, yep.
Yeah, no, yeah. I usually play JRPGs or Japanese games or whatever, but you can come to my chat. We can talk about life in Japan or whatever you want.
Yeah, we both stream pretty much single player games. We do the occasional multiplayer stuff like Phasmo, and I got hooked up on Risk of Rain. I just finished playing that game is hot, man. I'm telling you, the Risk of Rain is crack. But then after that, I just finished up the Medium. So just games like that, we've just been playing, having fun. So this show, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of news in the world of gaming. So we're gonna hop on into our what we live, Japan life. Japan, you want to move here? You think it's cool, huh?
Are you having a stroke right now?
Does it happen every 3 or 4 episodes? Is this just like are you okay?
You're just like one of these days you can actually have like an actual
no.
I have to call 119.
Yeah. Oh, see, that is a fact right there, everyone. You thought it was 911? Nah, it's 119.
119 if you live in Japan, yeah.
You know the best thing is that I'm only about 3 minutes walk or less from the hospital.
So you think if you have like a heart attack, you could walk yourself over there or no?
If it wasn't like a severe one, yes, I could literally walk to the heart attack, walk to the hospital. Yeah, I could walk to the hospital and just be like, not like go in the door, scan my
A-
card, and just be
and
like,
then
I'm
pass,
gone.
and then just
I'm gone.
collapse.
And it's like, okay, please take me to the right spot now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know.
Oh.
So we've lived in Japan for a couple years now. I think we're pushing on what, 8? I think for both of us, or what?
I always feel like it's 10, but 9. We're definitely at 9.
Well, I moved here after. Well, I mean, I was living here. We talked about the earthquake, our experiences living in or being in Japan during the March 11 earthquake.
Yeah,
Which the 10-year anniversary, by the way, was a couple days
like
ago.
4 days ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
March 11th. They
Mhm.
had a documentary on TV. Well, there's that movie the it's like Fukushima something. It's a
Yeah,
Hollywood movie, not Hollywood, but
like a Japanese
it's a
big budget movie.
Japanese
Yeah.
big budget movie. Yeah, kind of chronicling it. But yeah, we've been there since we studied abroad and then we moved back to work the
Yeah, I
next
mean, I
year.
was here for school, and then I went back home momentarily to graduate, and then after I got my degree, I just hopped on a plane back to Japan, and I've been here ever since. So yeah, well, same for you though, yeah.
Yeah. I went back, graduated, and then came straight back pretty much. I think like that next, uh, crap, maybe, yeah, it was like the next summer. So I got
Yeah,
here in like September
yeah.
2012.
Yeah, it's really some. Oh my God, it's like the same story. So I went home to graduate. I got my degree in like, well, whenever I graduated, in 2012, and then I was looking for a job like immediately. I was actually looking for a job just slightly before I even got my diploma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I got a job, and I was on a plane. Not soon after that, I got back to Japan in like August, and I had to basically live out of a hotel for a couple of weeks because I had to find an apartment. But yeah,
Yeah, so I guess we could kind of like go from there. Like if so, I mean, here's the thing. I know a lot of people, including people who have come to our streams, are really fascinated by the fact that we live in Japan, and I mean, everyone has their preconceived notions of what living in Japan is, or just like from the outside, like, oh man, it must be cool, or it must be this. Like for us, we see it as just a normal spot. Like this is just our normal spot now. It is. I mean,
yeah.
there's
I mean,
special
it's
aspects, but
real. It's real life for us now. It's kind of where we live. And I understand the appeal. Don't get me wrong. And I think part of the motivation for me to live in Japan was, you have an image of what it's like to live in this country.
yeah,
As a kid, especially one who's heavily influenced by anime or games or whatever, right?
yeah.
I think you see like this romantic version of Japan where it's just like this I guess wonderland of all the things you love. Um, and then you're just like, oh, I'm gonna move there one day. So, and a lot of people think that. Some people do it, and I
Mhm.
guess we did
Yeah, we
it.
did. But I mean, was it like that for you? Because for me, it all started with I wanted to work in the games industry and I wanted to work
Yeah,
with Japanese games because those are the type of games I really like. And I came back because I wanted to like hone my Japanese. I never intended to live here per se,
hmm.
and I never. Maybe it's because I'm from Alabama. Sorry, anyone who's from Alabama, but
But you guys suck. Was that what you were gonna say?
no, I was gonna say like I never had any notions of Japan. I didn't know anything about the country other
Oh
than
yeah, okay,
like so I had nothing. I came here and I was like, there's buildings and they're tall. It was the classic like country kid goes to a big city type of thing for me. I had no clue what I
sure,
was getting into. But I mean,
right.
for you, what were you always wanting to live in Japan or thinking about
Yeah, I
it?
mean, I think as a kid, like, I mean, I said just now, but like, I was really into anime and games as a young child. So,
Hmm.
um, I thought that it would be, I was like, oh, that's where I want to be. And like growing up, actually, my mom was really involved with the homestay program at the local university, right?
Okay.
So I actually had a lot of experience with like exchange students coming to Canada. I had a couple stay at my house. So
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah. So I met some people from Japan. I met some people from Korea and just Asia basically.
That's more than me.
Yeah, so it gave me a really good jumping off point to be like, oh, I want to do that. I want to go to Asia. And my mom having, being involved with the homestay program was pretty
Hmm.
willing to let me do that,
Like
right?
do like one of those programs or just like actually live in Asia or travel at least.
Yeah, so it started with just doing that, going here for school, So part of the reason why I wanted to come here for school was, yeah, obviously I really liked anime and games, and the other part of it was that I also, like you, wanted to improve my Japanese. I was studying at university, but it was just heavily like I was very displeased with the level of my Japanese. Yeah, I didn't think it was enough. I didn't feel like I could speak it. I didn't feel like I could use it really. I just didn't feel like I could converse really.
Yeah, because I mean, like even for myself, I would have to like and maybe it's not, I know a lot of people are like, man, you're like a genius with the language or something. I mean, when they're listening to us now, they're like, oh man, you guys are fluent. It's pretty crazy. But like, it's hard to imagine that. I don't know if you had to do this, but I had to like pre rehearse my conversations. Like if I needed to ask a question to like a
Yeah.
bus driver or something, I would literally
Yeah.
like 5 minutes before start
Trying to figure
rehearsing.
out like what you want to say, right?
Yeah, and then go up
you're
to
like,
him
is this the right verb? You know, am I saying this the right way or
and
whatever?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I think I would still do that. I probably will, still do that for certain things. Obviously, not like for everyday transactions like at a store. I'm probably fine, but when it comes to
Right.
really weird stuff, like let's say I'm gonna go to like a bank and I want to apply for a
Uh-huh.
loan. Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's like, oh yeah, loan, and I mean that's something you might have to do, especially if you plan
so yeah,
on
the longer we stay here, right? The
the
longer we
long.
stay here.
Yeah, there's homes or apartments that have that 35, was it like 35-year, 25-year mortgage or whatever, and you're
Oh,
like,
it's like 40 years if you want to go for a full condo. Yeah.
yeah, and you're just like, how on earth do I
Yep.
navigate these things?
Yep.
And I guess we can kind of like just start from the beginning. I mean, so we first had to get. I guess you have to if you move to Japan,
You're gonna want
where
a job.
you're gonna want a job.
Yeah, so I guess just to start all this off, I mean, I would recommend if you want to move to Japan, definitely do come. Uh, Make sure you get a work visa sponsored for you. It's not impossible to come to Japan on a tourist visa, then find a job, and have your visa changed. That's not impossible. That being
No,
said,
definitely not.
I don't recommend it. I 100% don't recommend it.
recommend it.
It's really risky. You're gonna have a tough time finding a company who's gonna be like, oh, I'll hire you, and help you change your visa type. It's so
It
just
can it can happen. I mean, I know someone who did do that, and honestly, it's
same.
you're gonna get one specific type of job, probably teaching English,
And the
but
company might not have your best interest
they
in mind.
they probably don't. They like literally someone was actually telling my friend like, yeah, because a tourist visa for U.S. citizens is 60 days
months.
or 3 months.
It's 90,
90,
right?
yeah, 90,
Yeah.
90. It's 90 days. So you have 3 months to you could stay in a hostel, you can do whatever you need to do,
Yeah.
capsule hotel, and then work your way around trying to find a job. But this company was like, yeah, we won't pay you officially, like it
Yeah,
won't be on the
it's
books.
under the table for a
Under
little bit. Yeah.
under the table for a little bit, and then we'll kind of like get your visa and stuff kind of settled. But I'm like, what? Like, no. I told my friend like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to get something legit. If you're gonna really do this, get something legit
Yeah.
first.
So it's not impossible. I don't really recommend it. So how about you? How did you get your first job lined up before you came here?
So what I did was I actually was searching normally through university, and I wasn't having any luck with jobs in the U.S. So my Japanese teacher, I just asked him like, do you have any jobs? Do you know anything? And I think you might be able to find this for a lot of other cities or in the U.S. or around the world is my college hometown in Tuscaloosa is the sister city of where I currently live.
Oh,
So
really? I
yeah,
had no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So if you
Wow.
ever go to like the festival here, you'll see like the Tuscaloosa flag or something like that.
That's funny. Wow.
There's like
cool.
another place that's famous for in Germany. There's a couple of different places that they have exchanges with, and that's how I ended up getting my job. They needed a teacher for the local junior high schools. It's a program that they have, almost like JET. Like really, it's like JET,
Sure.
but just a different thing. So that's how I got mine. What about you?
Yeah, so I actually got my job. My first job was also teaching English, but I didn't do it through a school. I went through the Eikaiwa, the English Conversation School, right?
Okay.
Infamous just for paying poorly and yeah, not a good job. I don't recommend it.
Are you
Well, I
gonna
do
pay you
recommend
during
it. It's
summer?
messed up. Here's the thing about Eikaiwa, English Conversation Schools, is that turnover is extremely high. Turnover is very high,
Very,
which
very.
means there's a pretty good chance
You're gonna get
hire you.
hired. You're gonna get
Yeah,
hired.
exactly. But the reason why turnover is so high is because it's kind of a shit job, and it doesn't pay very well. But if you really want to get in, if you want to get sponsored and have a job just to come here and get your feet on the ground, it's viable. I
Mm-hmm.
did it. I know a lot of people that did it, but I went to Gaijinpot, which is a pretty like I think well-known website for
Mm-hmm.
finding jobs specifically, not specifically, but jobs for foreigners.
Right, right.
This is just gaijinpot.com. You just make an account and you can just start browsing job listings
Mm-hmm.
for foreigners. So it's not all eikaiwa. It's also like shop staff, restaurant staff, engineers, translators, programmers, just anyone who's looking for like foreign talent, right?
Right, right.
But if you're fresh out of uni and you don't really have let's just be honest here, any marketable skills.
Marketable skills.
Yeah.
Your biggest skill was I did something for my school
was born
club.
in an English-speaking country.
Country.
Yeah, if the only thing going for you is I was born in an English-speaking country, yeah, English conversation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of companies out there. I don't want to like name them, but if you do any tiny bit of research on the internet, you'll know what
You'll
they
find
are.
them. You'll find them.
Yeah, so I got hired by one of the bigger English conversation companies, and they sponsored my visa. So I graduated. Then I submitted my diploma. They said, we'll hire you. And then I was like, cool, when can I start? And then they just gave me a date and I hopped on a plane and came here. So that was basically how I got my visa, which is the one thing as a foreigner in Japan, your visa's kind of your lifeblood. You need that. If you don't have a job, you don't have a visa. If you don't have a visa, you have to leave the country.
Pretty much. I mean, like it's I guess applicable to like a green card in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing was for me before I came here, I had to do a lot of paperwork that I'd never done before. Obviously, like the visa, you need to get your passport first in order to get a visa. So I had to, fill out my passport and get that done, which was in Atlanta for me. It wasn't in my local city.
Yeah, so I have to travel. I have to travel as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I got my passport. I think that took like a month or something. Because typically what they'll do is they'll expedite your passport. At least in my case, they're like, hey, you want to do it expedited because they usually get the documents for you to kind of the go ahead to move to Japan. It's like what 1 or 2 months before you really need to do anything. Like you need to find a plane ticket. It's like a rush or something.
Do you remember the thing called the certificate of eligibility?
Yes, I don't.
It's like a weird ass like card that says like you can come to the country for work.
Mm-hmm.
And they mail that to you, and then when you land at the airport, you give them your passport and that paper, and then they're like, here's your residence card, and I was like, whoa, shit.
You're like, this is awesome, I guess. I mean, and I mean, because like, you'll get that, and you'll come over here, and from then on, it's pretty smooth. The next thing you'll need is what, phone?
Yeah.
Is that phone or housing? I mean,
well,
because how did you go about housing? Because for me, the program I was in,
if you do, house,
it gave me a house. Jet will also give you a house if you are going to Jet.
And some eikaiwas will give you like they'll pay for your housing, but I would say like this is just me being paranoid, and this is just me just not trusting certain companies. But I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't have your company also be in charge of your house. Just saying.
How much money did you have to have? I mean, if you don't mind asking me, like before you came here, because I know I had to have. They said at least like $2,000-$3,000 or something.
That's a good question. I'll be honest with you. I came to Japan with 2,000 CAD, which is not a lot of money.
I was like, is that half a USD? Is that double USD?
How much is that USD? That's probably like 1,500 USD. It's not a lot of money, yeah.
Okay. I mean, that sounds about like, I guess what they would kind of want, because they need you, because you didn't have an apartment, correct? You had to find an apartment first.
That's correct. I was living out of a hotel for about a week and a half as I was rushing to find an apartment. Yeah.
Was this in the city? Like,
yeah, I was living in a hotel in Shinjuku actually, and
was that not expensive though?
Well,
it was like expensive.
I say the word hotel. I mean, but it was more of a hostel. But yeah.
Oh, okay. You'll have to be ashamed of the hostel.
Like kind of a janky hotel. I was living out of a hotel, so it was basically me in a tiny room and a suitcase. That was it. I came to Japan with a suitcase, and I was living out of that for a week and some, as I was going to like a real estate agent and trying to find basically any place where I could move into. I couldn't really be picky because the longer I took, the longer I couldn't have a phone or anything. Because if you try to get a bank account, they're going to be like, "Where do you live? You don't have an address. You're not going to get a bank account." You try to get a phone, same deal. Like they're not going to give you a phone if you don't have an address
Or a bank account at that.
or a bank account for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
matter. So that was
You
a bit
need
of a
both.
chicken and the egg situation. I got to say. I mean, I'll go into that in a bit here, but that was a bit of a chicken and the egg, chicken and egg. So I did get an apartment. I finally got one, and then I moved in. And then my next move after that was getting well, I thought it was going to be what was it, a bank account actually, because I was like, oh, money is going to be important here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to get a bank account kind of where I lived, in the city where I lived. So I was going to one of the major banks, so this would have been like a Mitsubishi, like MUFG,
Okay. Okay.
or no, MUFG
MUFG.
now, yeah, or like SMBC, like a Mitsui Sumitomo. But anyways, one of the major banks, right? One of the big banks in Japan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went to the bank, and they flat out refused to give me an account because I hadn't lived in Japan for more than 6 months.
The heck.
And I was like, okay, I have a job though. Like I have a visa, I have a job. I need a bank account to get paid.
To get paid. They always do direct deposit here in Japan.
Yeah, I need a bank account to get paid, and like none of these major banks would take me. They wouldn't give me an account because they're like, "Oh, you haven't been here for 6 months," and I'm like, "Well,
How am I supposed to get paid?
How the f am I gonna get paid, huh?" Yeah, I'm like, this like cash, come on, but so I ended up trying to find a bank that was, in quotations here, foreigner friendly, and I remember from my student days that I had a bank account at Citibank.
Oh yeah, they don't
actually.
close your bank accounts.
Well, I actually closed mine when I
Oh,
left.
you actually closed your? I
Yeah.
never closed mine, so mine was just
Yeah.
always running.
So I went back to Citibank, well, to a different branch, and I was like, "Hey, what's up? I want a bank account," and they were so gracious enough to give me a bank account. So that was awesome. But here's the thing. So
Here's the thing.
when I went to try to open a bank account, they're like, "We can't give you a bank account until you have like, if you don't have a phone number, we can't give you a bank account." And I was like, "Okay, let me just go get a phone, I guess."
But you couldn't get the phone without the bank account.
Yeah, so I went to like Docomo to try to get a cell phone, and I got, halfway through getting a contract, and they're like, "We can't give you a phone unless you have like a means of payment. We can't, unless you don't have, if you don't have a bank account, we can't give you a contract." And I was like, "Okay, well, shit. What do I do?"
Right. I mean, like,
Well, yeah,
because it's. I mean, this is something that a lot of foreigners actually do go through. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
the issues that we're talking about. It's not just us. It's not like an isolated case. It is very much. Yeah, this is just how it is. Maybe it's gotten better.
I think it might. I think it might have been at the time a combination of like my Japanese not being well enough or good enough to like explain my situation. Anyways, what happened was I ended up signing up for my phone contract with my Canadian credit card. So I was paying for my phone contract with my Canadian credit card. That was my method of payment. So I got a phone number. Went back to the bank. I just gotta remember this is all in the same goddamn day. Like I was just rushing between two. Yeah. So I went back to the bank and I'm like, "Hey, don't close. I got a phone number. Please give me a bank account." And they gave me a bank account. Then I was set. So I had an apartment at that point. I had bank and I had phone number, and that was it really. So I mean, there's also like internet and stuff, but that wasn't so bad.
That's not so bad. Once you get those two major things done, it is one thing. And like I know for me, I had a lot of stuff. The first time, when we were students here, they gave us how would you say, like campus mates or people to kind of help us out to do those things, right? And then you come back and you're like, oh well, crap. What do I like? I guess I have to do this for myself, And for me, since I had kept my old bank account, I didn't have to worry about that issue as much, but I never applied for internet. So I was always paranoid when it came to like applying for a phone or internet or anything. Like when they're reading over the contract, you have to pay for these things every month. And like, this was the first time in my life, I literally was just like, you know what? I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask again. Like, can you repeat this?
Yeah,
Can I
yeah,
read
yeah.
this like four
Right.
different times? And I know that probably annoyed the person, but I was just like, I don't want to end up paying like $200 for a phone contract, you know, and I'm like every month. So that was one thing that I struggled with, or I got real nervous with, was kind of dealing with that because my Japanese was okay, but it wasn't enough to like navigate all the waters of doing a contract or different
Yeah,
weird talks like that.
I mean, did anyone ever run over your housing contract? In
No,
Japanese?
no, no,
No.
no.
So I gotta say, like, housing contracts, I don't know I'm like
It's
seventy
like it's
percent. I'm like 70% sure I know what's happening in my housing contract, but like I'm like,
it's
yeah,
like it's like they give you the checklist at the very end, and they do this with
yeah,
everything, the phone company, all this. It's like check this to see if you understand, and I'm like, are you supposed to
yeah,
read? Am I supposed to read
yeah,
all of
yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
for my housing contract, when the first time I got it, I kind of understood what they were saying. The second time, when you recontract, I was like, okay, I understand it now.
Yep.
But they're obligated to tell you if you're going to live in a place where someone has died before. And so when
Yeah,
I was
or
or
murder or something
murdered or
like that.
something like
Yeah,
that, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
and ask you like, do you want it purified or whatnot? And I'm like, and so like my place, I was like, okay, well, I need a place to live because this is after I finished teaching, and this is the first time I actually had to find an apartment. This is my first experience, and I visited 3 or 4 apartments within the city because I needed a place to live before my visa expired, and then I needed to get a new job before my visa
Mm-hmm.
expired. So I had to do all
Mm-hmm.
this in like a month, and it
Right.
was nerve wracking. But I found this place, and they're like, "Well, the rent's gonna be a little bit cheaper, and it's because somebody died here." And I was like, and they're like, "Yeah, you don't care about that?" I'm like, "Were they killed there?" And it's like, "No, it's some old lady with her cats, and she died of old age." I was like,
What would be a deal breaker for you? Like, if someone were to be murdered, would you be like, no, I'm not. No, that's terrifying. Or
"Ooh, that would be kind of, I that would be weird. I would try to find a different place for me
really, like
personally.
like
I
that would put you off. Like, oh, what happened? Like, oh yeah, beheaded. You'd be like, I'll
Yeah,
pass.
yeah, yeah. I'll pass. I'll be
Like
like,
that would actually be a deal breaker for
that
you. Like
would
you
that would be,
wouldn't.
that would be a deal breaker. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think they'd be like hanging around haunting the place or anything, but just the
Yeah.
thought of knowing like,
Just
dang,
the
someone,
thought. Yeah.
someone
I
got
know
beheaded up in this place.
yeah. So I'm not like really, what's the word? Like, what's the word?
Superstitious
Yeah,
or
superstitious or
something. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not like the most superstitious person. I'm like barely even. I wouldn't say I'm religious at all, really. So that stuff usually doesn't bother me. But
Hmm.
just at the back of my head, like let's say I'm like in the bathroom, like taking a dump, and I'm like, man, someone got chopped up in here.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, because
Because
I just don't want, I just don't want that on the back of my mind.
I mean,
Yeah,
because like even when I moved in here the first time, I was just like at night I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, the old lady died somewhere in this
yeah,
like in one of these rooms. But
yeah.
there's a place next to me, and I didn't have curtains at first. I had to go buy curtains,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
like
So
I
that's
say,
that's the story.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a place that's literally right next door to me that has a door on the side. So that door is always like when I'm watching TV, I'm always looking through at that door. It's just there. And then like at night, it's like illuminated like that door from PT or something. Like you walk past the front door and it's just it's there, and it was
Mm.
scary. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. It was
Yeah.
scary.
Really.
But I
Uh.
got some I got curtains the next day.
Yeah. So the ghosts can't
So the
like peep
ghost
at
can't
you.
get
Yeah.
me.
Can't peep at you. No. That's a I mean, that's another topic for another day. But I want to talk about more about just like actually living in Japan and just
Yeah,
life in
yeah.
Japan in general. How? What would you say if someone asked you like, hey man, like how do you renew a visa? What would you tell them?
Uh so when it comes to renewing your visa, it's always up until now, maybe it changes in the future. You have to go to immigration in your local, well, in the designated ward. It depends
Yep.
on where you are. Now, no one told me this at first. I call immigration hell because the first time I ever went to immigration, the way
Immigration is hell though. It's shit. Yeah.
the first time I ever went to immigration,
Yeah.
this wasn't to renew my visa. It was to leave the country back after the earthquake, right?
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
what happened was back how it used to be was your you needed to get a stamp on
Oh, I remember that.
your
Yeah.
passport to leave the country. You had to, it wasn't even a stamp. You had to get a stamp, but you had to buy tickets that were sold at immigration for them to stamp your passport or something so you could leave the country. And then they sold like two different versions, like, oh, you can leave and come back once, or you can leave and come back 3 times. I'm like, what the heck?
I got my stamp at the airport though, actually.
Dude, I went the day, like 3 weeks or so from the earthquake. I was at immigration from 10 a.m. to like 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's some bullshit. I
So
mean,
it
that
was
a
it was
rough
it
time,
was
yeah.
it was hell. So after
Yeah.
that, like my next jobs were like, okay, it's time to renew your visa, and they tell you to go to Shinagawa, which is for Tokyo. They didn't tell me because I live over in Chiba that there is a Chiba. I could
Yeah,
just go local.
immigration, yeah, you
I could go
to-
local. So anytime I go there, you literally there's this complex line system of A, B, C, D, and then you have to get stamps at the convenience store below
Oh,
on the
those
first
stupid
floor.
things. Yeah,
For
those
some
stupid
reason,
things. Yeah.
you have to buy the postmark stamps and
Yep.
then take them upstairs and then go make sure you're in the right line. And then they just have the air condition off for some reason.
It's hot as shit.
It's
'cause the
humid.
summertime, yeah.
There's kids always crying in there every
Mm-hmm.
time, and you're there for like three hours, and that's what I do. You get on a bus, you go there, and you take a train, get on a bus, you go there, and that's. I mean, it's pretty it's straightforward, but it's annoying.
So yeah, I mean, going to immigration is like you always have to wait. So I always try to go. I go in the afternoon because I'm not much of a morning person. So I try to go just after lunch.
Mhm.
So the thing is, every time that I've renewed my visa, is I've had most of my documentation prepared by the company that I work for at the time.
Yeah, you just have to take it and just literally give it
Right.
to them.
So if you work at a, let's say, half decent company, even most Eikaiwas will do this for you, where they'll fill in most of the paperwork for you, and you just go to immigration. You provide a picture of yourself, which you can get at any like photo booth, like hanging around by the station.
Right.
Then you provide usually some kind of tax documentation that you got to grab at your city hall, and some other tax like withholding slip that your company should provide for you. I mean, they have to like legally.
Yeah.
And the filled out application forms from your company. Any half decent company will do this for you, and you'll just go to immigration. You take a number, or you go up, and you're like, I want to renew my visa or whatever. Here's my paperwork. Here's my picture. Which actually you don't need at the time, I think, but maybe you do. I can't remember. Anyway,
I think it's on your document. I think it's just like
it's on your document.
No. You're supposed to put it on the document.
Yeah.
But then
so
you give them another
paperwork.
picture.
Yeah. So here's my paperwork. Here's all the stuff. You just give them the thing. They give you a number. You sit down. You play.
And you wait.
You play like stuff on your phone, or you listen to music for God however knows for like hours. Then they call you up. Then they say like, fill out this postcard with your address, and we'll send you this postcard in 2 weeks, 3 weeks or whatever.
And you get the postcard.
And that's it. You go home and you just gotta chill out for however long. And once you get that postcard in the mail, it says like your visa's ready. You come back, you bring that postcard, and you bring they're called revenue stamps, the Shinyu Inchi. Like
It's just a stamp. It's like a postal stamp.
it's like a very expensive stamp. It's like a $50 stamp or something.
It's a $60 stamp.
It's like a $50 stamp. It's a very expensive stamp that you get at like a post office, actually. So you go to a post office and you're like, I want a like a whatever, like how many, like 4,000 yen.
I think you have to get 2 of them. I think it's 2 of them specifically. It's one that's because they don't sell it on the dot. It's like a 4,000 and like a 2,000. I think it's 6,000. It might be. Yeah.
So it's like I have to pay. Well, they'll give you like a price list of what you're getting. So if you're getting a visa renewal, it's this much money. If you're getting a permanent residence, it's like this much money. I think it's 8,000 for permanent residence.
Jeez, they be making money off us.
Yeah. So you bring your postcard, and you got to bring that revenue stamp, and then you go back to immigration, and then they call your number. Or you grab a number and then they call it and they're like, oh yeah, postcard stamp. Here's your brand new residence card. I'll see you in like a year.
If you're lucky,
3
year
if
or
you're
3.
lucky.
If you're lucky, it's 3. I don't know if they do a 5-year visa anymore or if they.
No, I think they still do 5 years.
They still do 5 years.
But yeah.
I guess the thing that's really annoying is like it's the fact that you turn it in the first time and it takes it's like you were waiting for like maybe sometimes like an hour and a half for them to basically to say, okay, your paperwork checks out here. wait for 2 weeks, come on back, and then you
I
wait
know,
again,
I know,
and then you
I know.
wait
You gotta
again.
go twice. You gotta go twice. You gotta go twice. And it sucks both times.
And you
It
wait
sucks
again for
both
them just to
times.
hand you the
Yeah.
card. It's like you could have just mailed this to me. I mean,
Just mail me the goddamn cards. What do you? Yeah, I know.
there's like moments in Japan where you're like, you have
Yeah.
all my information. You could just mail this stuff to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so
I think what is it? I think the reason why they make you come back is because they gotta like invalidate your current card. They gotta like punch it with
punch
a
a
bullet.
hole. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think you still keep it. Maybe you keep it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
have
know.
a drawer of all my old cards,
And
but
you're like, what do I want? I need to like shred these somehow. Like,
yeah, or I make like a necklace of all my old like
just
my
old
old card.
the cards right there.
Yeah.
But
Just see
yeah,
me age year by year.
that's
Anyways, so that's renewing a visa. If you work for an eikaiwa or let's say like a not secure company, chances are you're only gonna be getting a 1 year visa. You gotta go every year. You gotta renew. You gotta go
every
through this
year,
hell. You gotta go through this hell every year.
every year, literally.
But like
It's
once you
hell.
work for like a more stable company or they see that you're like, oh, this guy's making money, they might give you a 3 year visa, which
Yeah,
is
which is not bad.
thankfully what I have now. I gotta renew it in 2022. Yeah, I gotta renew mine next year.
Yeah, it's not a bad. And like I said, if you finally figure out about the local version for your prefecture, you don't have to go to the one in Tokyo,
Shinagawa,
which is
which is bullshit.
it's just a journey in and of itself. And it's
Yeah,
Shinagawa was one of the busiest business
it's like
centers.
the busy. Yeah, so we have
Yeah,
friends who live in Tokyo and they have to go to Shinagawa because that's their immigration office.
leave that place alone.
If there's one,
Leave hell out of.
here's the number one reason to not live in Tokyo. It's so you don't have to go to Shinagawa to renew your visa.
And I guess like that would be a kind of interesting thing to kind of get into as well. So living in like Tokyo versus living outside, like maybe in a suburb kind of community,
Yeah.
or uh, because you used to live in Tokyo, I've lived around Tokyo,
I
but
actually never lived in Tokyo. No, I lived in Tokyo as a student, but
as a student, yeah.
I never lived in the wards. I lived in an actual city.
Okay,
Because Tokyo is also a prefecture, right?
right.
So I actually never ever lived in the wards. I lived in a city, so I've always gone to just a local branch at all times. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess when it comes to choosing a place to live, though, like, would you say living in a bigger city is kind of at like what are the benefits for living in a bigger city versus maybe in a more rural area?
So here's my pro tip. If you ever want to live in Tokyo, if you're like, oh, I love Tokyo, I want to go to like Ikebukuro, Harajuku, Akihabara, I want to hang out in Shibuya, whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you are convinced that you want to live in Tokyo, I'm gonna say, don't live in the wards. Go ahead. No, like if you really want to like go and hang out in Shibuya, that's fine. Like Shibuya is a cool place to hang out. I used to do it all the time, but you can absolutely have like a really good life in the Tokyo area, living in the Tokyo area. You don't need to live in
Living
Tokyo.
outside of like
Yeah,
inside outside of Tokyo. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to go to
yeah,
those like hot spots.
yeah. Like live in the metro area, but don't live in any of the wards. So like, this would be not the outskirts, but this would be like just surrounding area. So this would be like Chiba, Saitama, Kanagawa.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those areas, like right by the border. It's like a 40-minute, 45 train minute, 45 train minute? What the fuck? Sorry.
45 minute ride.
45
Train.
minute train ride
There we go.
into into Shibuya or into Shinjuku. So you can still hang out with your friends in those major areas, but you don't live in the city. You're gonna have a little more breathing room. You're gonna have less people to deal with. You're gonna have cheaper rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
More space.
More space, and it's not like it's inconvenient. It's like, oh wow, I have to like there's no people here. That's not true. Like I actually live like I wouldn't say like totally bustling city, but it's not like I'm having issues.
Yeah. I mean, because like there's a local station near pretty much a lot. Like wherever you are, there's always going to be a station.
Yeah.
I guess the main thing would be like if you really want to be around those city areas, you can just be like, hey, check the nearest station to you and check the transfers you need to do and the time it takes to get to Tokyo or wherever areas you want to do. Because like some places you might have to take a little bit of a convoluted route to get there, but if if you live in a fairly decent area, and you check the train rides, you might just have to
You
change
get
one or two times. That's
Yeah,
it, and you're
exactly.
there.
Yeah. So for me, it's only like 40 minutes to get to Akihabara.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't live in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So if I was like, oh, let's go to Akihabara, it's not a big deal for
yeah.
me
No,
to
no,
do
no
that.
one's living in. Well, there are people who live in Akihabara, but like the people you're
Yeah.
meeting probably aren't going to be living there either. They're probably going to be on a train, or yeah, they're probably going to be commuting to get there as well. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of like that can't be undercut is like the trains here in Japan are really good, and they really do factor into pretty much your daily transportation, unless you have a license and you like to drive. That's a whole different story.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say like if you want to do move to Japan, I would say number one, make sure you have a job lined up before you come here. I don't recommend like just hopping on a plane and being like, I'm gonna move to Japan. I'm gonna get a job. Like that's you're risking it, man. Like you're super risking it.
Right, right.
Like make sure you get lined up with a job first, and when you get off the airplane, like make sure you have a game plan as to like where you're going to be living, have a general idea as to where you want to live,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and try to like ahead of time research like uh I guess real estate agents that will speak English, or if you can know Japanese before you land here, that's absolutely a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you're going to be able to communicate your needs as to where you want to live, and then from there you can get a bank account and a cell phone, and then you should be good for the most part.
If,
Getting internet and that kind of thing is can be like might be tricky, especially if you don't know language at all.
uh,
But
but I mean, I think the thing about that is, and you said it before, like you can know Japanese or not know Japanese before you come. I would kind of recommend learning some Japanese or trying to give it a go at the language. But if you don't, the cool thing is that wherever you work, hopefully you meet some people who can help you. That's what I think has happened for some of my friends as well.
mhm.
They've met other either Japanese people or foreigners who can also help them. So it's like, oh, like I don't. I mean, even for me, like I didn't know where like a recycle shop was, and my
Oh right.
someone in my community was like, hey, you can actually just go there. And they gave me a lift there. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got like some of my furniture. So like, make friends. I think that's really important, is to kind of make friends and make a support structure. Once you've settled into your kind of work environment, don't force yourself to do it. But I'm just saying it'll help you in the long run.
Yeah. And then I guess like yeah, I agree. And then like it really helps you if you just feel comfortable and not feel so alone. I know a
Hmm.
lot of people um like well, did you ever get like homesick when you first moved here? Like when you were like let's say the first couple of weeks, maybe the first month when you were like living by yourself basically in a foreign country, did you ever feel like really lonely, like waking up like without your family around or
No, no, I never felt lonely in that sense of like homesick. Like I really enjoyed my work, and like I had a lot of friends, and it was like okay, I never felt alone, but because I typically was like the person in my group of friends to like reach out to everyone, right? But there was a time where because when you teach English, if you're
mm-hmm.
teaching in the schools, you're typically rotating schools. And I rotated to a different school. So I changed schools basically. And if you want to imagine this is like being the new kid in a school again, you
Right.
just settled into one school and it's like 3 months, 2.5 months later, it's like, all right, you got to go to another one. You're like, oh, well, I just got used to all this, the teaching staff there. And like, that was kind of like my friend circle. And I didn't understand. And this is kind of a culture shock thing is, I moved to the other school, and I was still trying to be like, oh, can I still hang out with you guys? But that kind of circle in that school, the other school, had kind of closed off, right? It's not like they didn't like me or anything. They just, that was their place. And now I was in another place. And I felt like in America, I could at least still be friends. We would still go out or something. But in Japan, sometimes there is like a wall that'll come up. And it doesn't mean no one likes you or anything like that. It's not that. It's just work, busyness, all these sorts of things. And I didn't understand that, and that's when I actually felt lonely. That's when I felt like a hole, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I got like really homesick in terms of like my old friends, who I was keeping in
Hmm.
touch with. But like if they didn't message me or something, I'd be like, well, why aren't they messaging me? Like what's happening? And there is a kind of thing that if you I don't know, maybe don't watch out for it, you can like I found myself kind of like being upset. Like it was hard for me to make new friends, and I typically can make friends. But for some reason in Japan, I was like, why the heck can I make new? Like, what's happening? Why don't people
Right.
want to like stick with you? So that was my thing. It wasn't like a culture homesick thing, but that was like my culture shock. If anyone asks, like, did you ever feel culture shock from just moving? I was like, no, the environment was fine. It was just getting used to different people was really hard for me.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a I don't know if that's culture shock per se, but that's probably just like a growing period.
I
Um,
don't know.
and just like maybe like you might have I don't know if it is that culture shock. Like, would you have maybe gone through the same thing if you just moved to like another part of America
That's what yeah, that's the weird, that's the thing, like I'll never know unless, I go back to America and then just
and then move
switch
to
and then
like
move
not
to a
home?
new, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because sometimes I think it is like part of growing up, and then, we've kind of talked about it, both me and you, we've been here for our adult lives
Yeah,
pretty
that's true.
much. So
Yeah,
we
I mean,
can't
I basically became an adult in Japan, which is wild to think about, really.
yeah, I mean, a lot of those experiences that would be really relatable are kind of interesting for us because we relate to them, but we don't know if it's like the norm. Like that's
Mm,
how it was supposed to be. So like even for me, like when I was explaining that, it's like, is that normal? Because you hear your parents will be like, yeah, your friendships with your normal friends, like sometimes they don't last, and that's just a thing. And I was like, but we always talk.
yeah.
Anyways, I mean, what about you though? Did you have any?
I don't think I was like really homesick per se, but I had like these weird time like for especially for the first like 2 3 weeks in my first apartment where I basically had no furniture. You know, it's like a box essentially. It was such a small apartment.
Yeah.
I would just wake up in the middle of the night and I would be like why am I here? Like I know I put myself here, but I'm like I have I have nothing here. I'm like I wasn't like lonely per se. It was a weird feeling, I guess. It was kind of just like a little bit of an uneasy feeling because it's pretty it's like a brand new like environment
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have the friends that I have to talk to. I don't have my family. I really have um not that many people that I can reach out to.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, like you can message someone on Facebook or wherever, and Discord, I guess now. Sorry, it's a very 2011 thing to say.
It's like in Discord now.
Yeah, maybe like Discord basically now. But I obviously, you could reach out to your friends back home, with the internet, but it's not like it's not quite the same as being like, oh, hey, dude, like let's grab some drinks or something, right? You know what I mean? Like let's,
It's not. It's
yeah,
not. Grabbing drinks here, and it's kind of weird because like you feel like maybe, at least for me, I felt like maybe my Japanese counterparts were doing that. Like, hey, let's go grab drinks, and like they go grab drinks. But for me, I was like, can we go grab drinks? But then it'll be like, oh well, let's make a plan to go grab drinks, and I felt like my life revolved around making those plans to grab, not grab drinks, but just to like hang out with other people. So and I think that is a thing, and I don't know if that's a thing in the U.S. or not. Just I know as you get older, you definitely have to, especially with work, and that's just something like I've grown to accept. But yeah, you don't have
yeah.
that same
I think it's just like
structure.
it's not a thing that you can really prepare yourself for. Like if you're like I honestly think it takes a lot of balls to just be like, oh, I'm moving to another country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like it you gotta like I don't know, you gotta really prepare for it. You gotta be like, okay, I'm leaving this country that I know for my whole life. I'm saying goodbye to my parents, my friends, everyone that I've ever known here. I'm going to a country where I don't know that many people, and maybe
There's-
Japanese isn't your first language. Maybe it's not even your second language. Like maybe you're not fluent in it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
There's like literally no family. Like
it
literally,
is.
I mean, anything
It's a
happens to
jump.
you,
Yeah.
anything happens to you, there is no. I mean, it's something like you can kind of like when you said you kind of like wake up in the middle of the night and think like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, like I did this to myself basically. Like it's a bit of a jump, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make this like leap of faith, and I'm going to move to this country and have a job basically, try to just see where this path in life takes me. Um, and I don't know like how well you can prepare yourself for like those moments where you just like wake up and you're just like why
Why?
why am I here? You know what I mean? Like what did
No,
I you know what I mean?
I don't think you can. I mean, like one of the things that when people have asked me like, hey, I want to move to Japan, I always tell them like, make sure you have a goal, no matter what it is. Like, have a goal, something you want to do, and kind of keep working towards that goal. So no matter what, maybe you do get lonely, maybe you do get homesick or something. You have something to remind you like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm working towards, and then understand that that goal is maybe it's not the end goal. It's where you want to go at that moment, but just be accepting to it potentially changing. You know what I mean? So you don't get really bent out like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's not going the way I want to. Life is horrible. It's like, no, you're on a path and it's gonna wind and curve, and you just got to understand that hopefully maybe it ends up where you want to go, but be flexible and know that. And I think this is really important that if you need to go back home, if you need to go back, go back. Don't
I know
force yourself to stay.
A lot of people that I met here have gone home since. They were here for like 2-4 years, and they're like, okay, I had my fun in Japan, I had my life experience, but this isn't where I want to be. I want to go back home. Like that just makes sense to me. Home is home.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Obviously, I respect that. I think honestly, myself, I had, I would say for me, I was also thinking about going home at the 4-year mark. So I moved here for work in 2012, right?
Right.
So like 2016 and I guess also 2018, honestly, like that was when I'm like, for me, like my visa then was expiring. It was like
that first, yeah.
I was like, hey, let's not bother to renew my visa. It's gonna expire. My housing contract is actually coming up at the same time. So this is it. I'm just gonna go home. And I didn't like at the time I was working my previous job, and I'm like, this job is fine, but it's not really fun. Like I just don't see myself working here for more than another couple of years. You know what I mean? So I was about to be like, okay, well, this is it. I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna go home. Like I've lived here long enough. But then I thought about moving home, like not even moving apartments, which is already pain in the ass because I did that last year.
Yeah,
but like moving home, I like looked at my closet behind me. I looked at all the shit that I had in my apartment, and I'm like, oh no, like oh god no.
No.
I like don't know.
I already know if I ever do decide, like if I do decide that it's like when I first moved into this apartment, because I wasn't sure like how long I'd be staying. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna like make it feel like a home kind of thing. I'm just gonna keep it like kind of spacious or whatever. And then at one point I was like, you know what? If I ever do have to go, like everything in this place is gone. Nuke it. I don't care. I don't need it. Give it away. Whatever. That's the easiest thing. I don't want to have to take anything back or mail it. I know friends who've mailed their stuff back, and it gets there fine. There's nothing wrong. It's like a couple months. But it is a hassle with those boxes.
Oh my god, yeah.
Shipping fees.
Looking at all the shit I had in my I'm like, oh my god, I want to take that home. I was like, what about my table, my couch, my bed, my fridge? I was like,
you don't want to take your fridge home, right? You
gotta like sell it, right? You gotta sell it. You're like, well, I have to go, okay, like recycle shop. I have someone has to pick it up or something like that, right?
What people don't know is taking out the trash in Japan is dumb.
Yeah, especially big ass furniture. Anything longer than 50 centimeters, I think it is. Like,
yeah. You have to call the city, and the city has to come and pick it up on the last Saturday of the month.
Or it depends, like it's sometimes like the third Thursday or something. I remember in my last apartment back where I used to live, I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw this chair away. I'm like, all right, let's just get this done. And it's like, oh, it's the second Tuesday, which I missed. So
right.
I'm like, okay,
and so you have to hold on to it for the next second Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck.
It's no. And like they don't want you to take trash out the night before. Typically, it's like you take trash out the day before, the morning of because of the crows.
Do you night before or the morning of?
It depends. I go back and forth. Now, I'd say for the past year, I've taken it out the night before if I could.
Yeah, me too. It's like I don't give a shit. Like I'm taking the trash out when I want to.
Because they don't want. So for I guess I was gonna say like burnables, just things with like food and stuff. Like there are a lot of crows here in Japan, and they will come
like
and like pick, and
they'll
come and like pick the mess out of it. But I'm like, okay, this obviously has a metal lid. There's no crows getting in here. I'm like, because if you miss it, it means you're stuck with raw meat or something like for the next day or two. Like you have to keep holding on to it. It's like what? No.
Yeah. I like oh my god, I'm like, I don't give a shit. And I'm not the only one. I've taken my garbage out like pretty early in the week, and I go to the garbage dump area of my apartment,
and people have already done it.
I'm not the first bag. I'm not the first bag. And I tell them, I don't care.
It's like, I'm not the first one. I did have a person I used to work with who was a foreigner, and unfortunately, like, they had, I think it was either noise complaints or I know it was trash. It was trash. And the landlord just assumed it was them. They were taking.
I know.
They were taking it like perfectly on time. And the landlord kept. So what they'll do is they won't knock on your door and talk to you. They'll leave like notes.
Passive aggressive note.
They'll leave a note that you think might either be on everyone's door or it might just be on your door. You never know. Yeah. But they'll just leave the note and they'll be like, "We've gotten some reports of people."
I got that too. I got that too. Yeah, when I moved into my last apartment. We got the same thing where it's like, make sure you're taking out your garbage properly. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I am though.
And you'll be like, I'm pretty sure I am. I know I got one for like the toilet because like it was like I guess it was like clogging up whatever the sewage or something. And they were like, oh yeah, if you're not using like if you're using anything other than single ply or whatever, like please change.
Well, you can't use double ply? No way.
I can't use double ply in my place. Apparently the pressure's too low or something.
Are you kidding me, dude?
So I was like, I think I might be using double ply. I don't know if this is marketed at me, but hey, I guess I'll switch over to single.
Ply? Oh
I have to use single ply or use double ply like really like you use like two little things just.
Oh my god! You should just use the ass wipes, like the baby like wet.
The wet wipes.
Use those. Gosh. I have, by the way.
What you have?
No, yeah, because like last year when toilet paper was impossible to get.
Oh, that's a good point.
Impossible to get.
It was literally impossible.
You know what wasn't selling out?
Baby wipes. Wet
those
wipes.
Weren't selling out. So I bought a bunch of those.
Those can still clog your toilet, though, man. You got to make sure that it's.
That's true, though. Yeah.
But that's like a fun little quirk about living in Japan. All those like little weird things that the NHK person, the first day you move into your apartment, guaranteed the next morning you wake up, someone's gonna knock on your door. The national, I don't even know what NHK stands for. It's like PBS, but they want money from you.
Basically, yeah.
Like a subscription service money, not like please donate. This is funded from users like you.
And they're so aggressive about it. So basically, like it's not even law. Is it law? No, it's not law.
No, it's not law. It used to be like pseudo law.
If you have anything that can receive a TV signal, you should be paying for NHK.
Even if you don't watch that TV
signal. Even if you
don't
watch it.
Even if it's not plugged up.
Yeah, and these dudes are so aggressive. They'll come to your door and they're like, "Oh, you have a TV? Can I come inside?" I'm like, "No, can't inside." No. And you're like, "Oh, you have to pay for NHK." Like, you have to pay for NHK. And I'm like, "Really? Really now?" And they honestly like won't like, oh, they're so aggressive, man.
They'll keep coming back. They'll come back every other month or whatever. They'll come back and you'll just be like, "I'm not here." I unfortunately got I guess I got swindled. I don't know.
Swindled.
It was my first time coming back to Japan, and literally it was the morning after. Morning after I get to this city, I wake up in the morning and there's a knock on the door. It's this old lady. She's like, do you want to pay for NHK? Like, she starts talking about NHK, and at this point I'm like, okay, let me talk to her. I'm sorry, I don't have any I don't have any money. I don't have a way to pay for this. I don't speak Japanese that well. And she's like, don't worry, I have a list in English of what I can talk about. I'm like, I have no money. And she's like, do you have I was like,
a
credit card?
Yeah.
She asked for a credit card. And I was like, I don't have a credit card. I mean, I have this bank card from like 2 years ago. Heck, I don't know what this is. And she's like, oh, that'll work. I'm like, huh? And she takes it. She's like, swipe. Yes, thank you. I was like, no.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I think that might be illegal. Might be illegal.
I might have said like, I mean, I guess you could try this. I don't think it works or anything because I didn't understand that cash cards here, what you use to withdraw money, is the same concept of it's not a debit card, it's not a credit card, but it is essentially access.
Like linked to your bank. Yeah,
it's linked to your bank, and it's
yeah.
And that was cultural disconnect right there. We don't have that crap in America. What do
That's
you?
so it's so
Why are you
funny.
carrying a card around for your account?
That's so funny.
Like,
No, I mean a couple run-ins with the NHK as well. I remember in one of my apartments, I had to go home to like take a dump like really bad because I actually lived like really
that's
close.
that's how you
I
met the NHK viewers.
I lived really close to where I used to work, and I had to like so I would just go home to use the bathroom because like I could basically. I had to go home take a dump like so bad, and as I was coming home, the NHK guy was like leaving, right?
Mhm.
Because I wasn't home. He had to knock on my door, and then I like went in. He like passed me, and then I like went inside, and then I closed the door, and I heard him. He came back, and he rang the doorbell, and I had to like answer the intercom. He's like, "Are you home?" I'm like, "I'm really busy right now. No."
It's like no,
He's like, "Are
no.
you sure?" I'm like, "No." I just hung up. Yeah,
It's crazy. It is
yeah.
honestly kind of crazy. And I guess we're coming up to like
The hour mark,
the
yeah.
hour
I don't
mark
want to leave. I don't want to close the podcast on a
on
story of me having to take
NHK.
a dump really bad. But yeah,
Oh,
no,
or that too.
yeah,
I guess like if you have any final, because I think like we can come back to this anytime. Because we have tons of stories. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't even talked about my shady job.
Oh yeah, no.
I
I
haven't even
mean,
talked about my black job.
I'm
The
lucky
black
enough to have
job.
lived or not lived, but like worked in most places that were like kind of legit. I mean, the worst for me was the Akai wall, but all things considered, I got treated decently well. Um, I got paid not well, but I got paid always
I
on always on time. But
always on time.
yeah,
I got paid really well. My company was it was an experience that ended with apparently the president money laundering or taking money embezzling from the company. This is
oh
how
no,
that company was insane. It was a manga. It was legit a comic.
that's crazy. Yeah.
But I guess if we want to wrap, what do you want to wrap up on? What do you want to go out on? Like a message of some sort or
Yeah, no,
something like
I
that.
definitely think like if you do want to move to Japan, like if you wake up one day and you're just like, or not maybe one day, but if you do decide that like this is something that you might want to do, even for a little bit, even for 4 years or 6 years or something, just a moment of time in your life where you think it might be okay to move to Japan,
Hmm.
you 100% can do it. I mean,
Hmm.
you're looking at people who did do it. Just like make sure to be prepared for several moments of discomfort and just feeling generally uneasy, right? And anxious about stuff, right? That'll happen. That's natural.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but if you are decently prepared and you do have a means into the country, as in you have a job lined up before you go,
Mhm.
you can definitely do it. And there's enough foreigners who live in Japan that will be willing to help you. Just a network basically of foreigners who are here who would be willing to give you a little bit of advice. So if you want to do it, it's not impossible. You can definitely do it. Just make sure you're ready for it.
I agree. I agree, and definitely with the network of foreigners, it's kind of weird, or maybe it's not weird. I mean, we like an expat community, but essentially, like maybe some of the holidays you celebrate in your country, you can definitely find people who celebrate them here. You know, I still have Thanksgiving. I still am able to kind of like celebrate a kind of a New Year's Japanese style and U.S. style, and like he was saying, we're here to help people. You just have to reach out and look for those networks. And you'll find that people that you bond with in a foreign country become somewhat like family. Like they're friends, but they can also be as close as like a family to you. So keep your mind open and definitely prepare as much as you can. But just know that you're gonna run into some hardships. You're gonna run into some random things,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
remember, people are people.
Right.
That helped me probably more than anything. Like, Japanese people are gonna do things their way, but at the end of the day, they still hurt the same way I hurt. They still have emotions. They're not actually robots,
Well, unless you're talking to a robot, then yeah.
unless you're talking to the store clerk. Then it
Oh
might
yeah, was that the pepper? Yeah.
the actual Peppercoon,
Yeah,
Peppercoon.
an actual robot. Anyways, I think that's
Uh,
I mean that's a decent just thoughts on moving to Japan and that kind of thing and our anecdotes of getting set up here. But yeah.
for sure, for
Um
sure.
maybe next week we'll talk about video games. I don't know. We'll see.
And we'll see how the climate for video games is. And until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at UGP_cast. You can also follow myself on Twitch at NinjaTrixta, and then follow my co-host Alex at Root24 on the old Twitch. I was going to say the Twitch tube. That just sounds weird.
No, just Twitch, please. Yeah.
Just Twitch, yeah. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, too. We do make little clips and highlights for each of the episodes, so we hope you'll listen and watch those. But real quick, be sure to anchor.com /
No, Anchor.fm.
Oh, no.
/ not backslash. Man, you got everything wrong. Everything that you could have messed up, you did mess up.
I'm the failure chicken.
Yeah. So what are you trying to say? Our actual podcast? Yeah.
Yes. Anchor.fm / UGP cast.
There you go.
And click on there's a message, there's a button to leave a voicemail. Seriously, we want to hear from you. If you have any questions about what it's like to live in Japan, or like anything that we didn't cover, we'd be glad to like throw it up on the episode. I mean, talk about it on the episode.
Are you okay? Are you having a stroke? Should we call 119?
I'm okay. 19.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, we'll see you for episode number 77.
Yeah, shit. Okay.
Is it 77?
It is 77. Like
There we
next
go.
week it is, yeah.
Next week is 77. Episode
Yeah.
number 77 of the Unknown Games podcast. Remember, you set the tone, go play some games and have some fun.
All right, peace.
Let's go.
Jesus Christ. All right, peace.